Welcome back to the Making the Madness YouTube channel. Sean back again for another video discussing Adam Miller headed to Baton Rouge next season to play for LSU, and that's a big-time get for Will Wade because Adam Miller is going to play a role eerily similar to what Cam Thomas did last year, and ultimately I think that's part of the reason we see Adam Miller deciding to go to LSU over schools like Kentucky and Michigan because he's going to get his shots up at LSU, and that could be the best place to boost up his draft stock. LSU lost a ton from last season. Javonte Smart gone. Trendon Watford gone. Darius Days, it seemed like he was gone, but now there's some buzz that he could return. So if Darius Days does return, that would be huge for the post play of LSU because he's a really talented stretch big man. And then obviously Cam Thomas is gone, and that's kind of the role I envision Adam Miller playing. I think he's actually going to play a lot of point, even though I don't think that's his best skill set. I think he's best used as a two guard that will have the ball in his hands a lot, kind of like what Cam Thomas did. He can create for himself. You know, Illinois, that roster was so incredibly talented. He was kind of just put into a role of almost a spot-up shooter type of guy, which wasn't what he did in high school, not what he was accustomed to. And he was just never going to be a guy that had the ball in his hands a majority of the time, with Andre Curbelo clearly being the future of the program. And rightfully so, because Andre Curbelo was fantastic as a freshman, certainly showed that he was very underrated as a recruit. He was, like 60th in his class. Adam Miller was in the 30s. So when you compare that, you got to think Adam Miller just wanted to play at a place where he's going to touch the ball often, which is LSU. They play really quick on offense, get a ton of shots up, like letting it fly from three, and they're terrible defensively. The last 2 years have been a complete disaster on the defensive end, and that's ultimately kind of been what's plagued them. I mean, 2 years ago, obviously COVID shut down the season, but defense was a big-time problem there. But they returned a lot of that roster. You got Javonte Smart back, Trendon Watford back. But this year, I mean, they were 8 seed that played St. Bonaventure in the first round. They ran them out of the building. And then the second round, they played Michigan, but they just could not hang down low with Hunter Dickinson. Austin Davis had some good moves late. But, yeah, they just had no answers. Cam Thomas kind of struggled in the second half. And when your guy that could average 40 or drop 40 on any given night just disappears in the second half, you're probably going to lose that game. That's kind of just what happened with LSU, and that was kind of what Cam Thomas did. You know, he could drop 30-plus any day, and he could drop 20 in one half, and then he's not going to score the rest of the game. That's kind of, when you have a guy that is that high volume, if you look at Cam Thomas's numbers, they aren't overly impressive. I mean, he had 23 points a game, which is fantastic, one of the top 5 scorers in the country last year, points per game-wise. But when you look at his efficiency, 40% from the field, 32% from deep, both of those are below average. That's not what you want from a player that's leading you in scoring. But Cam Thomas also had quite a few games where he dropped 30, like he did against Michigan. He had 32 against Nicholls State, which ended up being a pretty close game, or Texas A&M actually. But he got hurt against Ole Miss. He only played 4 minutes in that game. He hurt his ankle. But, yeah, Cam Thomas, he was going to get a bunch of shots up last season. That's kind of what he did. He took 17.2 shots a game last season. And I think Adam Miller's going to play a similar role to that. I don't know that he's going to get 17 shots a game up, but they have a lot of scoring to replace. I mean, you're losing a lot of your scoring from last year. If you pull up their leading scorers from last season, you're losing your first leading scorer with Cam Thomas. He's gone. You're losing your second leading scorer with Trendon Watford. He's gone. You're losing Javonte Smart. So you're losing your top 3 scorers for sure. They're gone. They've already signed with agents. They are going the professional route. That is 55 points a game. You're going to have to find a way to replace. All of those players average 16 plus. Watford and Smart average 16, while Thomas averaged 23. Darius Days, it sounds like I said earlier, he might return, but if he doesn't return, man, I mean, you lose so much from last season. And then, you lose Andre Hyatt. He was your 5th leading scorer at 4 points a game. He's gone, and he only averaged 4 a game, and he's gone. He transferred out to Rutgers. That's where Andre Hyatt decided to transfer to. Charles Manning transferred during the season. You return Joshua LeBlanc. You lose Jalen Cook. Sharif O'Neal should be back healthy after having a stress fracture in his foot. But yeah, I mean, there just wasn't a ton of depth last season that added scoring. Josh Leblanc was a good defender, one of the few good defenders on the roster. But next season's going to look a lot different. I think we're going to see a LSU team that is more depth oriented. They're going to have a lot more guys that average 10 points a game than guys who average 23 and two that average 16. Like when you look at the roster, you have Xavier Pinson coming in from Missouri. He's a guy actually a lot similar to Cam Thomas, not pro potential wise, but Xavier Pinson had a game against TCU where he dropped 36, 37, I believe, somewhere around there. But yeah, they were about to lose that game to a really bad TCU team, and they were able to come back because of what Xavier Pinson did. Pinson ended up dropping 36 in that game with 8 threes. He just turned it on to a different level, but he had a few games in the 20s, and then he had a bunch below 10. I mean, that's kind of what he was last season, and he was never a great shooter, really ever. He was a solid shooter 2 seasons ago, and this year he shot 34% from deep. I think that's going to only improve because he's definitely talented. He's just super inefficient at times, and I think that he's going to play a big role for LSU. But let's say Xavier Pinson can average 15 or so, which I don't think is out of the realm of possibility at all. Seneca Knight coming in from San Jose State, he averaged 22 seasons ago, transferred during last season. He's a really good athlete. Shooting wise, there's definitely some things to work on, but he's a versatile defender. He can really defend 1 through 4. And I think he's going to be a very pivotal player for LSU next season. He got, half the season to be acclimated within the program, got to spend time with guys like Cam Thomas and see how things work at LSU. So I'd expect him to be a pretty big player next season. Joshua LeBlanc returns. He should be the best defender on the roster once again. Alex Fudge, he reclassified in the middle of the season, I believe, and I think he's dealing with some kind of injury, so he never played. But that's a 4-star recruit that is expected to play a pretty pivotal role in the future, and Moani Wilkinson is also returning. He played a fair amount down the stretch last season. He's a guy that can shoot the ball from outside. I'd expect him to play a pretty big role also. And then when you look at the 4 spot, they're in the mix for Efton Reed. I don't know if they're going to land him. He's more of a 5, but Bradley Ezewiro, he's committed, and JRL Colbert are both committed for next season. So I'm curious to see how they play next year. But yeah, I mean, this is a solid roster for sure. They don't have that guy like Cam Thomas. I think Adam Miller is, very talented. I think he could be the star of the team. They definitely have some moves to make via the transfer portal to add more depth in my eyes. Maybe if they could land Efton Reed, that would be huge because he's one of the top uncommitted players in the class. They are in the mix for Ty Washington. I wonder if this kind of takes them out of that mix. But if they can get Ty Washington and get Adam Miller, that makes them a potential top 25 team, in my opinion. Right now, I don't think they're a tournament team. If Darius Days does officially return, I would probably put them in that mix around where they were this season as a 9 or as an 8 seed, who could definitely only get better throughout the season. But when you're that poor defensively, you have to be on every single night on offense or you're going to lose games. So hopefully Will Wade improves his defense this season, puts more of an emphasis on it. But I'd expect LSU to be fun to watch next year like usual. And Adam Miller is a huge get. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Many more to come. And until next time, have a good one.